Hi guys, in this video we're going to be taking a look at the plastic Celtic warriors, which are available as their own box set or also come in the Caesar's War Gallic set or Gallic Celt Starter Armies, all from Warlord Games. They contain plastic sprues. One sprue is the main warrior sprue, and then there is also a command sprue which includes things like the Carrick's horn and standard bearers, and other extra little accoutrements like severed heads and such like, and other heads for your troops that you can use. When assembling it, you need to first check that you match the appropriate legs to the torsos, because some are either wearing chainmail or are clothing or are bare-chested, so obviously just make sure you match the right legs to the right torso. And ideally, if a chap is carrying a sword, try and match him up also to a pair of legs which has a scabbard for a sword as well. Although there is a separate scabbard you can add to a pair of legs should you need to. So it's just a case of selecting the components you need, trimming them up, and then gluing them all together. So that's what we're doing next in the next little segment here. To trim the models, I just used a regular X-Acto or scalpel blade knife, and I cut off any of the joint areas where the sprue has attached to the model itself. Here I'm trimming off the base, and then once we get to the model proper, we want to scrape off those mold lines, and it's just a case of scraping the blade down the side of the mold line so you remove it as best as you can. We're keeping the blade at roughly 90 degrees to the model rather than like slicing it off, we're scraping it off. So just bear that in mind. If there are any other areas that you need to trim out, obviously just use the bladed part and chop those out if necessary. Sometimes you can find bits of plastic in kind of nooks and crannies where part of the moulding process means you get a build-up of plastic and it's not really ideal. Perhaps between, say, a scabbard and a leg or something along those lines, you can usually trim those areas out. But for the most part here, we're just scraping off mold lines. So just keep your blade perpendicular to the direction of scraping. Once we've got all the pieces trimmed, we can then glue them together to complete the pose of the model. Here I'm using Tamiya's extra thin cement. Great for applying. Just apply a small amount to each side of the model you're going to glue together. Hold them together for a few seconds and you'll get a good clean bond. And you still have time to reposition as you need to. And then once happy, we can apply some more glue just to seal it in place. And once the model is glued together, we can also use the same glue to work around those mold lines that we've scraped to make them all go fully smooth. The scraping process can still leave a bit of a fuzzy kind of edge, whereas the small application of the thin glue just smooths it off entirely to get a perfect result with your model. Then ready for painting. Continue building your Celtic warriors until you have enough to make a unit. Here I'm making a warband which is 8 models wide by 4 deep, so 32 models. I've also left off the shields at this time, I'll do those later. As in our previous video when we painted up the Roman legionaries, we're going to be using predominantly contrast paints to paint these models, so I'm going to base them with a very thin cream colour. Here I'm using a thin down mix of Vallejo's, surface primers, desert tan and white in a roughly 50-50 ratio, and just paint this on until the whole model is a uniform yellow colour. Next we'll do the metallics, and we'll prime those metallic areas with a dark colour. So for silver areas I'm going to use Black Templar contrast paint, and for any gold areas like the torques around the necks or bracelets or whatever else that might be a gold item on them, we'll do those with Cygor brown, just to give a base to the metallic colour. And the same on the chainmail of this noble. With the silver areas done, I'm going to give this noble warrior a bronzy, brassy, goldy coloured helmet, so I'm going to base this with the Cygor brown. It gives a better base to the golden colours. On this warrior, we'll pick out his torque around his neck, and also the bracelets or armbands, or whatever you want to call them, around his wrists. And you don't need to be super neat here, just get it on, get the area covered, because we'll tidy it up afterwards once we're done on the metallic colours on top. We'll then paint the silver areas with lead belcher. This is quite a thick base paint from Citadel, so I've thinned it with a little bit of water first so it doesn't block up all that chainmail detail. And we'll then paint the gold areas in Retributor Gold. Once the metallic paints are fully dried, we're going to shade wash the silver areas in Nuln Oil. And when the Nuln Oil is dried, we'll shade the gold areas with Seraphim Sepia. And the same on the warrior's torque and bangles. Once the shade wash has dried on both areas, we're then going to dry brush those areas with Runefang Silver, which is basically a light silver colour. And here I'm using a Rosemary & Co. very small dry brush. Once all the metallics are now done, we're going to tidy up the remaining areas of the model, again going back to our pale cream colour, just to tidy up those areas in preparation for applying contrast paints to those areas. Here I'm using a selection of Rosemary & Co. size 0 to 2 brushes. And basically anywhere where either the shade wash from the metallics or the dry brushing process has hit that cream area, we're just going to tidy it back to cream again. Once that process is finished, I'm going to start painting with the contrast paints, and first of all I'm going to pick out all the straps and scabbards and belts and edges of the armour and things in Gorgrunter Brown. The shoes can be picked out in a range of brown colours, Snakebite, Agros, Gorgrunter itself, Cygor, whichever brown colours you like, you can do a selection of. And after that you can start blocking in all the colours that you want on the model. I'd work through the clothing areas first and then finish up with the skin. I decided this warrior would have stripy trousers or checkered trousers. So here I use a darker colour to go over the light base yellow colour, and I'm using Blood Angel's Red as a contrast paint. The contrast paint is great here. It really excels because dark colours go over light colours very easily, and the very thin nature of the contrast paint makes it very easy to apply a nice straight and even line. And that's his check trousers done. And now we'll give him some hair colour. Here I'm just adding a little bit of snakebite leather to the handle on the dagger. And now we'll add the skin tone with Guilliman flesh. Just one thing to make sure with this one, if your pot is fresh and you're giving it a good shake, all is good. If the pot is a little bit old, it can get a little bit thick and give you a bit of a too dark a brown effect. This is possibly happening here slightly. I should have thinned this down a little bit, but it's okay. And that's the core paint job finished on this Celtic noble. Now we just have to add his shield, get him varnished and base him. And here's a selection of the other warriors I painted from the unit. This is a fresh pot of Guilliman flesh and it's going on much better. Here we've added the shields to the warrior. The back of the shield has been painted brown, the core of the shield is black, and the silver areas obviously in lead belcher again. They've been Nuln oiled and then dry brushed again in Runefang steel. And this is the Celtic Warriors water slide decals for their shields. You just need to trim around the outside of the decals with some small scissors, some decal scissors, and then pops them in some warm water, slide them off into position and pop them on the model. Got some small decal scissors to chop the decals out with, and we'll get them all sorted out. These are the solutions that we use to apply the decals. We use the blue one first, the micro set, paint that on the shield area first, then apply your decal to that, squeeze out all the excess water, and then smooth it down by applying the red solution, the micro sol. Obviously select a decal that matches the size and shape of the shield that you are applying it to. Once you've got it moving off the backing paper, you can pick it up by the backing paper and then use your brush to slide it into position on the shield. Squeeze out the excess water that you can with the brush, and once you've done as best as you can with that, use a paper towel to firmly press down on the shield to press it flat. Applying the microsol helps the decal conform better to the curved surface of the shield, and then allow to dry fully. Having painted the model bases brown, I'm just going to make the basing process a little bit easier by putting some of the basing medium on the base of the model itself. This will just help getting it on the sabo base a little bit easier later. With the shields and the basing done, we can now do the varnishing. We're going to seal the whole model first of all in gloss varnish, and this will also help the shield decal to stay in place as well. And then once that's dry, we'll give another layer of matte varnish to matte it down again. So we get 2 layers of varnish to protect the model. Don't forget to wick off the excess varnish before it dries so it doesn't pool in those crevices. With the gloss varnish dry, we then apply the matte. And again, don't forget to wick off the excess. With all the models individually painted, we can now figure out their basing requirements for the unit on infantry bases. These bases come with the models. Now we just have to blend the bases together with the basing medium. Here I'm using a basing paste by Ammo by MIG. Work this medium onto the base using whatever tools you need. Here I'm using a spatula type sculpting tool. I also make use of long metal pins just to reach into the middle of the base to get between the individual models' bases to fill everything into a uniform layer of the basing medium. Once the base is done, leave overnight to fully cure. With the whole unit done, I've then gone round the edge of the bases with Rhinox Hide dark brown paint. I'm now going to paint the basing material with a thin down mixture of PVA and water, about 50-50 mixture. Don't need to cover the entire area, just spread it around as best as you wish to, and then sprinkle on quite thickly the basing flock sponge static grass mixture material that I have below. Cover it in a thick layer of this basing material and press it down with a implement like a plastic rod or end of a paintbrush handle, something like that. You're looking to push down a thick layer into that glue so it fully beds in. Then you can put it aside to dry, and once fully dry you can shake off the excess material back into your container. And with that, our unit is done. We've also put them onto a movement tray, which is also edged in the same scenic material so the whole thing blends together. They're now ready for the tabletop. I hope you found this video helpful in getting your Celtic warriors and indeed other ancient models onto the tabletop painted and based in a quick manner. Please like, share and subscribe, it will all help the video grow. Thank you, and we'll see you in the next video. Cheers.